Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host and listeners. Today we are going to dive into the troubled waters of trauma. And I know for many of you, that is a word that you are probably very drawn to because you're feeling trauma in this moment, but also somewhat repelled by because there's nothing really engaging about trauma that we really want to dive into. But here's the secret. I'm going to let you in on a little secret about trauma as we get started before I introduce my guest. One of the things that I've learned in my long lifetime is that if you don't address the trauma continues, the trauma stays with you, and it just brings you more trauma. So, this episode is the beginning of my gift to you because I've met someone who's going to be able to help you in this journey to unpack your trauma, and everyone has it. So there's nothing unusual about it. So let me introduce you to Karlee Holden. She's a new friend of ours at Divorce and Beyond. And I'm so delighted that you're here, Karlee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you and your listeners.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation today. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Bella Gandhi. Bella is a huge favorite of my listeners. In fact, she was just on the show last month. Again, she's been on multiple times. But when Bella said to me, I just had this wonderful woman on my podcast, Susan, and she obviously knows my show very well. And she said, she resonated with my listeners. She's definitely going to resonate with your listeners. You absolutely have to have her on. And, then you and I connected. And I knew in the first couple of minutes of getting on a Zoom call with you that this was going to be an important episode. I want to let my listeners know we're already talking about turning this into a series. So please do reach out. Let me know what you want to know more of, what you want to hear more from Karlee on as we go through this episode, because she'll be coming back. But a little bit about Karlee, just so you all know. She's the author of, this is a great series of books. They're called the Can You Please Talk to My blank, 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 right? Series. The first book was Can You Please Talk to My Trauma? So that's what we'll be talking about today. But she also has Can You Talk to My Girlfriend? And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the episode, just to set that up for you. And she's also got two more Can You Talk to Me's in the works, one of which is the sequel to Can You Talk to My Trauma, because 10 years in her life has passed. And I'm going to guess some processing of additional trauma or experiences that she's going to share in the second book. But so let's just dive in, and maybe you could start with where you came to be, because you're also a trained trauma healer. I should have mentioned that, listeners. That's also at the core of all of this. She's been helping people deal with their trauma, unpack it, manage it, all of the above for more than 20 years now.
Yeah.
So this is not something that you come to just as, I think I'm going to be a trauma healer. No.
Right.
She knows what she's doing.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So tell us how this all came about, though, because you started out in a very different field, acting and film, television.
Well, my first chapter of the book is one of my favorite chapters because I graduated from college at Berkeley and I came home to Los Gatos, California, where I was from. And I was like, what do I do with my life? And immediately I heard this intuition say, help people through the media. And I was like, okay, what's the media? Boom, cut to years later, or not years later, sorry, I'm just cutting forward. Years later, after I spent time in Hollywood, I moved to LA and I start working in film production and acting, but people start saying, can you come to my house and do yoga and meditation with me? It was like the healing and the film work were going hand in hand. So I'm finding myself at directors, producers, actors, very successful people, helping them with their pain. Now, I didn't know about trauma back then. I knew about meditation. I knew about spirituality. I was learning a lot about self-love. So I would guide them through stretches and breathing and going within and connecting. But man, these people were traumatized and I didn't know what that was. So that's what started my journey to wake up to, why are people suicidal? Why, how come they can't just snap out of it? Why are their relationships so bad? What's going on? And now for me, I'm in my second serious relationship. I had a serious call. I was a late bloomer. I really woke up in my 30s and I had a serious college boyfriend. And then I had my second serious my relationship with a comedian.
Ah,
Now, comedians are quite
supposedly
depressed.
some, yes, I was just gonna say, unfortunately, right? Comedians on the outside are laughing all the time, and on the inside, I think are some of the saddest people.
Yes. And so I have to give credit to Rob Schneider and Adam Sandler because those men were in my world my first 3 years in Hollywood. They taught me so much about pain, self-love, and because I grew up in this very loving, spiritual, bubbly family where you're working on yourself to fill up on the inside. And then in Hollywood, I'm seeing something I'd never seen before where people are getting so much love and attention and fame and money, but they're not happy. So I was really confused. So that started my journey. And actually, in the Can You Please Talk to My Girlfriend book, they're all my journal entries about self-love and what it is and what was coming through the ethers to me. So this is before I woke up to my own traumas and what trauma was. Am I kind of answering your question, I hope?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is really interesting about what you're saying is here you are working with, I mean, you mentioned two very, very famous individuals, Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, um, who, but, and anyone in Hollywood, right? You had a lot you were adjacent to a lot of fame in that time. And here's people who we assume have these perfect, wonderful, gifted lives. And yet, there was underneath, as you just said, there was a lot of trauma. And I think it means, right, everyone has trauma. I said it in the beginning, right? Don't we? It's a universal.
That's what I think I want to answer to your question. This might help a little bit more. I When I woke up to my trauma and why I wrote the Can You Please Talk to My Trauma book is I didn't realize I kept attracting men where I had a lack of boundaries and I kept allowing, can we swear on this?
Oh, sure.
Okay, too much shit. I
Yeah.
kept allowing just too much shit. And I wasn't, it started a little bit in the first relationship at the end of college and I got out. So I had some strength, but then it happened in Hollywood and then it kept happening, this pattern of I didn't know what boundaries were. I had no idea. When I first heard the word boundary, I thought it was a border between countries and states. Sorry, that's like so embarrassing. I was like, a boundary means you say no to someone. What is that? So I go into that in the book. In one of my relationships, he actually said, "Come to therapy with me. Even though I'm the nutso one, what are you doing?" I'm all okay. And this psychologist taught me you need to have boundaries. And I was like, what are those? Okay, let's go. So I hope that answers your question a little bit more. I just kept attracting unhealthy relationships. And so that's why I wrote the trauma book, is to show people how I had. So a lot of people I meet now are very aware of boundaries. So if that's great, that's the first step, is just being awake and aware. I was not. So I feel like I was chosen to be so clueless to wake up and show people what's possible.
Well, you were so far on one side, and now you're
Yes.
completely on the other side, and in fact, are people's guide to the other side of trauma. And but the story you just told, I think, is so impactful because it points out to people that if you don't deal, or if you don't even know about the trauma and deal with it, you will. In your case, it was picking the wrong man over and over again, right, repetitively, and for many of my listeners, that might be the issue, picking the wrong mate over and over again, or having picked the wrong one this time. But that will continue until you acknowledge and understand your trauma and learn how to deal with it. One of the ways I think we've given away the one of the ways you can do that is by learning how to set healthy boundaries, right?
Right, that's definitely one tool. And if we're throwing out a few tools just to inspire your listeners, is patterns. I had no idea what family patterns were. It doesn't matter how much you love or hate your family that you were born into. I was confused for way too long and I like how you said you pick these mates and you also draw them in. It's like that law of attraction is real. I'm picking them and they're coming to me like flies on. And
Yeah.
so I was confused too long. I hate that. Confusion and trauma to me go together. So if people are listening and they're confused, don't worry. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, because that confusion means something that you learned in your life is still playing out. And that's exactly what happened to me. And when I went to work on what that pain pattern was, like we'll label it. Like we actually call it something. For example, the ones I love the most hurt me, or everyone I love betrays me. We find that pain pattern and then we heal that within ourselves, which is the ones I love and respect me back. Everyone I love is so honest and truthful. Whatever, we go to the opposite. And that's an awesome tool. Like I felt like I couldn't be with the one I loved, all because I knew this pain pattern of the ones you love the most hurt you, when really you can change it and be like, you know what? I can love someone and be treated. And when you first introduced me and we're talking about Bella loving me, you brought a tear to my eye. And I wanted to like throw that out there to the world that we all just want to be loved and seen and appreciated. And in order to really have that in a healthy relationship, we have to know, I don't I hope this doesn't sound cheesy, but it's true. We have to know, not just in our head, how to give that to ourselves. Like, how do we, and that's what boundaries are. That means we love and appreciate ourselves so much that we can say no.
Can I just tell you, in the hair on the back of my neck is standing up a little bit. So this is my post that I posted on Instagram this morning. I just want to read it to you. And by the way, it's about Bella's episode. So, and the post is, we all just want to be seen, heard, and appreciated. That's all it says in the post. And it's almost like you just spoke those words. So if anyone out there is wondering if the universe is providing right now, hello. Absolutely. It is. It's honestly like the hair on my neck is going, woo.
My body has so many chills, it's hard to move. And I do just have to say, I don't scroll. I'm not on social media except to post once in a while. So I didn't even see that. I don't look at social media.
Yeah. You just almost quoted it verbatim. And that's just right. And it's about Bella's episode. So I just think that's an indication here. And what you're talking about, I can hear my listeners out there saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute, back up. She's talking about trauma patterns and family of origin stuff, when we grew up. What does that have to do with the trauma I'm feeling because I'm going through a divorce? What's going on here? Aren't we talking about the trauma around this process that I'm going through? And I think it's important for people to understand this pattern concept.
Beautiful. And I'll try to put it very simply. So when in my 20 years of seeing clients and working with people and on myself, I know you're not supposed to say always. It is always whatever somebody's going through in their relationship, their divorce, their pain, their whatever it is, somewhere we learned that or it wouldn't be happening. So if we need an example, this one client of mine keeps coming up. I won't name names. Everything's confidential. But his ex was so awful. And he was the sweetest guy. And he was so torn up how evil she was being. Now, I've been through a divorce too. I know the legal system. I know the darkness. Oh, yeah. So I applied this to myself. So this is what's tricky. It's hard to see in our family of origin. It's buried. It's covered. For some it's not. Some it's like, oh, yeah, no, my mom manipulated me. My dad beat me. I mean, big stuff. So it's easy to see, so if we use an example, my mom was so manipulative and abusive to me. Now my ex is being so manipulative and abusive. I'm just trying to keep it simple. I don't know if this is helpful.
Well, and that's like where it's really obvious, right? But there are times when what mom did or what dad did or what your sister did or whatever was a much more subtle thread.
Amen. It's denial. It's hidden. So a lot of generations before, they didn't talk about it. Everyone puts a smile on. So you don't know. And that was me. I come from a very, you covered up family. Everybody's just like, everything's great. They're more real now. However, back then, that's what they learned. My parents learned from their parents. You just put on a smile. That creates a lot of anxiety because kids, how I raise my kids, I don't mean to go into a different topic, is we need truth. Because when we have truth, we can separate our patterns from our parents. So not to get complicated, but if I'm going through something, I'll say to my son and daughter, hey, mommy's upset right now. And I feel energetically and emotionally, I'm separating what I'm going through because now they know the truth and they don't have to take on what I'm taking on because I'm dealing with it. Whereas with generations before, it's just hide everything. Yet here, us children, so pain pattern, what we're born into is absorbing all that anxiety, fear, lies, cheating, stealing, whatever the ugliness is, we're absorbing it like a sponge. It's like taking a sponge and putting it on the counter and you say, Karlee, I just want it to absorb water, but there's orange juice next to it.
Right.
You're going to get the orange juice too, if the orange juice is the ugly, let's say. Sorry, I love orange juice, but I'm just trying to, I like analogies. So we're constantly, and that's the nervous system work I do. We're constantly absorbing what is in the room, not what we're told, what the energy is, what people are thinking and feeling and how they're treating each other. So if it's fake, we're absorbing the fake, and that does
Right.
not feel good. The body wants truth.
Yeah. And I love this idea of absorbing the energy around us. And I remember it's making me think, um, just for whatever reason, it's a bizarre analogy, but I like analogies too, or just stories to try and make things understandable to myself. I remember watching the first season of The Bear. Have you watched The Bear? Okay,
No.
so it's set in a Chicago like Italian beef restaurant. And the whole first season is people yelling at each other and very stressed out and things aren't going well. And we were watching it because all our friends were like, oh, you got to watch this show. You live in Chicago. And we're watching it the whole time. Every time I would watch an episode, I would spend a couple of days in a high state of anxiety. And I didn't realize right away that it was this stupid not a it's a great show. I'm enjoying it. I don't want to, denigrate it to anybody who's enjoying it. I do enjoy the show, but I didn't realize I was absorbing the anxiety from a television program because absorbing anxiety is a part of my patterns, right? And then feeling it and not being able to let it go. And so that's just making me think about if we think our kids are not absorbing our anxiety, or our anger or our pain or upset because we're telling them, no, no, don't worry, mommy's fine. Everything's fine.
Nope.
They are.
They are. Absolutely. You're making me think of, sorry, a couple points came up as you were talking, which is so
Yeah.
good. So I'm not woo-woo. I can be, but I'm not because I like practical anatomy. So if anyone's listening and it's like absorb energy and energy sounds woo-woo, no. I can talk nervous system talk, fight, flight, freeze response are very real. My husband just told me about a coworker who went on a safari in Africa and they were in a tent, this really cool thing they were doing, with guides, and it was all very protected. But a leopard came by their tent, walked right by it. And what I love about this example is he said his hair stood up, this primal, before they even heard it, before they even saw the shadow, they started to get goosebumps and their hair stand up because the nervous system has a brain of its own.
Right.
Our bodies, all those neurons that are in the brain are in the heart, they're in the gut. They've proven it scientifically. So it's not woo-woo. It's we respond to environment. So even the TV show, that's how you have to be careful what you watch. If you're
Yes.
going through a hard time, there's stuff I can't watch anymore. I mean, I know the other word that came to me, self-regulating. That's what we need to learn to do. So after you watch The Bear, you could self-regulate either. I could give you some tools, or you might know how to do it where you breathe it out. You tell your body you're safe. That's their stuff, not mine. What is this bringing up in me? Ooh, maybe I have a little healing to do around my anxiety and from my past. So learning to self-regulate is, you're bringing up another topic. How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, and it's the key to all awareness. I always say is the beginning key. It's the first key, but then it's so now that I'm aware of it, what do I do about it? How do
Okay.
I get myself out of this place?
And not to promote this, but I am, because it's not even for money, it's donation.
Yes.
The first thing of my program, the first module is awareness, number one. And then the next 11 modules are what you can do to heal your pain pattern. So that's something else people can.
Well, I'm glad we brought that up because usually we talk about these things at the very end of an episode. But listeners, I want you to know Karlee has a wonderful program that she's actually making available for donation. You can donate what you can, or what you wish, or what you want, and the entire program is available to you. And of course, we'll have the links to that. But it's, so the tools are there. We've just talked about, being aware, self-regulation, and how to do that will be, something that I'm sure covered quite well in the program, but we'll touch on a few ways to do that here. Actually, why don't we do that? You mentioned, breathing and a little, what else?
Well, what I wanted to say as you're bringing that up is a lot of people, if people are in therapy, they go once a week, once a month. Why I did the program is I took everything that changed my life and my clients over 20 years, and I was like, you can do it daily. It's like exercise. You don't just exercise once a month and want results. So you can go back to a module, a guided exercise that I do. So I was like, okay, if people are only in, excuse me, in therapy once a week or once a month, what are they doing in between? So that's why I made it. So it is nice to have in-person support. So this goes along well if somebody has a good therapist and stuff you can do on your own. So I'm actually the kind of, not the opposite of deep breathing, but when we're super tense and feeling anxiety and someone says, take a deep breath, that feels awful to me. I want to say, hell no, go F yourself. I'm freaking angry. I'm anxious. So we actually work with that energy, feel it, bring it on, but in a safe container. So if anything ever feels too big, I also say in the program, pause, tell your body, I'm not going to do any more right now. And I can help guide people. I have a link of working with the right person to address something. So some people's traumas are too big to look at alone, so don't. But if you're like, for example, dealing with something you feel like you're ready to handle and do some self-love, then there's those guided exercises of what's coming up, what are those sensations in the body, how do I start to release those?
Yeah.
So
And
there's tools in there.
I love that you're talking about these things, because I think for so many people, there has been so much repetitive trauma. I had Dr. Elizabeth Cohen, who is a good friend of mine. She's a psychologist in New York City, the divorce doctor, for those listeners out there who have loved Dr. Elizabeth's episodes. And one of the episodes we did was during the pandemic. And she said that, one thing that many people just don't understand or realize is that the pandemic itself has been one long repetitive trauma over and over again, on top of
Yeah.
every other trauma that we might be going through. And so, as we are in this world today, maybe post pandemic, I don't even know if we can say that we are, but wherever we are in that, people in time right now seem to be at a real inflection point of extreme trauma,
Mm.
or just a compilation of trauma upon trauma upon trauma upon trauma, and they're having a very hard time getting out, getting out from under that.
You know what one of my tips is for that with politics,
Uh-huh.
COVID, pandemic, all that. Forgive me if people don't like hearing this. Just stop for a moment. Don't look at that. We have enough to do within ourselves. So I know this sounds cheesy, but it's true. We can't heal the world until we heal ourselves. Mother Teresa, right? Peace is within. It is true. So if we're so focused and always looking out at social media, politics, pandemic, vaccines, we're going to literally drive ourselves crazy. So that's why you want to turn off the external, close. And I do that in my program. I have people close their eyes. I'm going to have you go within. What's happening? So now when I'm self-regulated and I hear negative news, I can separate myself from the negative news and I can shine my light out and stay there instead of going into anger or hate or frustration. Because if we're all just going, oh my God, I'm so in love with myself. I feel so much more peace. I'm self-regulated. I'm doing me. Oh, now I see chaos. Ooh, I can hold space for it. The more of us that are holding space for chaos. So it's so funny. It's weird how this fell into my lap. But Monday nights I teach this yoga class that the universe wanted me to teach. A teacher didn't show up one day and I was there and I'm certified. I haven't taught in many years. And I was like, I'll do it. So now my yoga class is like this healing class where we feel so amazing together and we're shining out our light to the darkness. So if we heal our trauma, we can look at whatever dark is happening in the world. And I have this little trick I play with myself. If I do feel bad, because there's a lot to feel bad about, I go, okay, spirit, universe, God, whatever your beliefs are, this has been happening since the beginning of time. It's nothing new. Okay. It's really ugly right now, but it was ugly before. It was ugly. Whoa. And I start thinking about history and I go, okay, what's my role? Does that make sense? How do I show up to the world so on fire, so in love with myself, my partner, my family, my purpose? That's what I like to help people get to.
Well, and that's probably so far from where my listeners, my typical audience, who right now, for many of them, I mean, honestly, even if they've done trauma work prior to their relationship getting to where it is today. It is a traumatic experience. It is an additional trauma and an ongoing and repetitive trauma. Divorce, you and I have both been divorced as well. We know it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. It's usually a dragged out process over months or years. And so that at the very least will add to your prior traumas or be new trauma for you to deal with and maybe very different from the prior traumas. But how, let me think of the right way to ask
I have
this.
something to share if this might help
Sure.
your question.
Perfect.
I think this is what your listeners need to hear. And I'm not saying this as a victim, I'm saying this to help them. I've been through hell. I know it's sounding good. So my couple decades of literally hell torture, I did write in the trauma book. When I was told intuitively, you need to write this book, I went, hell no. It is so embarrassing. It is really, I go to my deepest, darkest, ugliest moments to show people how I got out and how I did fall in love with myself and then attracted. That's why I need to write the second one, because the first one, I'm giving away the ending. It ends with me not needing a partner. I'm like, I'm done. I am so in love with me. I get why nuns and monks are the way they are. I'm ready, world. I've had enough men. I've had enough sex. I'm good. Let's go. I have a daughter. I'm divorced. I want to show her a freaking awesome mom. So that I just want people to know I was suicidal. I was in a violent relationship with someone I loved more than anything that tried to kill me. I'm just saying it because Bella told me to say it.
Yeah.
And I talk about it in the trauma books. I want people to know how bad my boundaries were. And then because I took so much, it made me suicidal because I was holding all this adrenaline because I let somebody treat me so bad. That's what I want people to know. You're not crazy. You're not suicidal. You took so much that your nervous system is so overwhelmed that you want to check out. You don't want to check out. I didn't want to die. I wanted to kill the pain. So I take you on a journey of releasing that pain, finding my boundaries, loving myself so much that now my life, people that knew me before, they don't recognize me. They go, you're the same Karlee, the same heart and soul, but I'm a different person. I don't know who that girl was anymore. Does that help to hear? Because I sound like I'm doing so great, but I want people to know I hit my bottom and it was live or die. And what do I do? So that's why I am good now.
Yeah. Well, and so good, right? Like anyone who is looking at you or hearing you, you're so far on the other side. And in the sequel, people will find out the second part of your story, which is wonderful and exciting and shows just the power of growth. And there are some similarities, I have to say, I've always looked at the Susan who was married to my first husband and have said my current husband would not have looked at her twice. He might have looked at her, but he would never have dated her.
Oh,
And
I
he
have chills.
certainly wouldn't have put up with her.
Oh, I have so
And
many
neither
goosebumps.
would it. I wouldn't have wanted to be friends with her.
Oh, yes, I agree with that point. So I'm glad we're sharing this with people because we do sound so like, oh, we're so together. We love what we do, but they need to know that we're all once at that dark spot and how did we get out? Because that's what they want to know, right? How do you
Yeah.
get out?
Yeah. Well, and the way they get out is they get you to talk to their trauma.
Yeah,
Can you
I
talk
love
to my
it.
trauma?
I
Read the
will.
book, take the program. But Karlee will talk to your trauma. You do work with clients, right?
Yes, I will talk to your trauma, man. We will knock the crap out of it.
Yeah, and having done some trauma work myself, everyone be prepared. It's an experience, right? You have to go in and face trauma in order to work with it.
You're
Um,
you're bringing up a good point. A lot of people need to what people need to know, and I do go through this in the program, is it doesn't have to be scary. So a lot of people run from working on themselves because they think that. No, no, no. Gentle, slow, and steady. It feels amazing. After each, so I studied with Peter Levine. That's a lot of the work I do, somatic experiencing. And we had to do so many hours on ourselves in this 3-year training. Every time I showed up with one of my therapists or practitioners and worked on myself for either my hours or my healing, every time I left, I was like, I want more. I want more. It's like a good workout. If you love what you do, you want more. So if you're in therapy and you're not liking it, because I had a lot of I think I went through about 8 therapists that I didn't like, keep searching. Don't stop. There are so many tools out there. Find what works for you.
Well, and find the right guide. That's what I was thinking as I was saying this, right? It can feel scary, and it takes a lot of trust, not only in yourself but in your partner who's helping you dig into this and work with it. But I love that description that you just gave of, I want more of this, not less. I'm afraid of that. No, I want more of this healing, of this moving forward, discovery, all of the things that come with first the awareness of your trauma. And the trauma, again, it goes so far back.
Yeah.
There's so much. It's not, yes, there's trauma involved in your current situation, likely, but
Yeah.
it has roots that go back much further, and you have to go all the way down to the bottom to start
And
working with it.
yes, so as you get clear on what that is and you keep releasing the emotion and tension in your body, you feel better and better. So those are tools that you do right there. Your mind becomes clear. Oh, I had no idea that bothered me. You have flashes. Your body is releasing. It could tremble, it could cry, it could shake, it could get angry. It doesn't matter. Every little bit you release, you go, oh, it's like cathartic.
Yeah.
Just for fun, and you don't have to share this if you don't want to. Do you know what your pain pattern was that you broke?
I don't know. No.
You said something earlier, said I absorb people's anxieties. So that's something we could talk about another time, though, if you
Well,
want.
maybe we'll do it just so my listeners can hear what it's like, right? So we'll
Yes, we'll do
see.
an
We'll see what I
example.
can do. But I mean, I've always been, I get like, I have an issue around, I can't watch violent movies because I will hold that for days and be in a dark place for days, and have had violence in my past that I just tend to not think about, and buried underneath that. So, and I've dealt with a lot of that over time, but it took me a long time to figure out that
Okay.
where some of those patterns were coming from. But there's probably face it, everyone, you know what, we're always a work in progress.
Yes.
There's always more we can learn. I've learned so much. Karlee and I were talking before we started taping, and saying, I'm in my late 50s now. I don't know if all of you know that, but that's where I am, and I'm loving my life. Like, I'm in a place now because I've learned so much. I've had the gift of doing this podcast now for 4 years, and talking to people like you and a lot of the experts that I get to have in my world. And it just gets better every day, right? Like, with every new experience and with every episode, I'm learning, and my life is getting better as well. So this is just one more of those wonderful episodes.
I love that. I feel like when this is such a beautiful point. I feel like so many people listening get hard on themselves with age. How have I not found the right one? I'm getting older. No, no, no. You and I both, we're like fine wine. It's true. I am happier with age. Life gets better. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm getting older. Do you feel? No, no, no. As I get older, I feel better in my body. It's not age, it's how you hold stress. I got pregnant at 46 naturally and had a baby and just finished nursing. And I've never felt better. What's it like having a baby in your 40s? Better than in my 30s because I'm happier. I'm married. I'm healthy. I'm married to the right friendship
Person.
partner.
Yeah.
Right. I know I couldn't even I couldn't even say that. Right. So I just want people to know it doesn't matter your age. It matters how you feel. And that's what we'll help you with.
Right. And that's so you have these resources. You have the first Can You Talk to My Trauma, the sequel to come, everyone, and the program. Tell people more about where they can find those, and if they wanted to work with you, how they would go about doing that.
Yeah, well, my website's the best way. It's my name, Karlee Holden, So my mom is Karen, Kar, and my dad is Lee, Lee. So they
Oh,
thought they were having a third boy, so they had like these boy names picked, and I came out, and they're like, "Well, let's just put our names together." So
I
I'm
love that.
Karlee, and then Holden, like William Holden,
Yep.
HOLD.com. So just my name.com, and there's a contact form. There's everything is on there. My program, my books, everything that
And
people can email me.
I was just going to say, quick reminder for those who maybe didn't catch this before. Karlee's program, which is, you said, 12 modules,
Yeah.
is donation based, everyone. She has done 12 modules, and it is a donation based program. So if you can contribute, it goes to help continue the community. If you cannot, Karlee wants this information to be available to everyone. So
Yeah.
she's doing that on a donation basis, which I just think is, there is a thing in this world called karma and dharma, and there are positives. Your generosity to the world will bring you generosity, and that we have both said in this episode, the universe is
Correct.
providing in certain ways. The universe wanted you to teach that yoga class. The universe does provide to people who are generous to the world. So
Totally. And I even just lowered my books on Amazon. I was like, how, because I can't give them away for free because they have to be printed because I
yes,
self-publish them. So I lowered the price as low as I could. So I just want it to be, because I know when people are hurting and money's tight, I just want those tools to be out there because the souls that want help, they'll do it. That was me. I was willing to do anything. So I put my heart and soul into whatever I make for the souls that are like, you know what, I'm ready to own my part and change. So it's possible.
well, and I know there are people out there who are listening right now, and that is a beacon of light for them. So thank you so much. And I'm going to remind listeners, reach out to me. Let me know, if you go do the program, if you get the program, if you read the book, or if you've just listened to this episode and you want to know more, or you have questions for Karlee, let me know. You can always reach out to me at divorceandbeyondpod@gmail.com, or just go to the website, divorceandbeyondpod.com. There's a form there where you can send me feedback. Do it on Instagram at Divorce and Beyond. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with me, folks. And definitely go check out KarleeHolden.com. I will have links to everything in the show notes, because this is, that this might be that first day where you start on your road to healing. And that's what, we want this episode to be for you. So thank you, Karlee, so much for helping people take that first step today.
You're bringing a tear to my eye. It's my pleasure. It's my joy. I really, the greatest fulfillment is lifting others up and connecting like this. And this is what you and Bella talked about. We just all want to be loved, heard, and seen. And we want to give that to people and give them an opportunity to feel that, like you're doing for me, and vice versa.
Exactly. So I can't wait until our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you so much.